Tēnā koutou te whānau o Auckland Unitarians. Tēnā koutou ngā manuhiri. No mai, haere mai ki tēnei whare karakia a te atua. Tēnā koutou, tēnā atou katoa. We welcome you into this circle of community. Welcome into this space made sacred by Auckland Unitarians for 116 years. 11 months and 4 days. We especially welcome you if you are a visitor just passing through or seeking a spiritual home. You have joined us on Jukebox Sunday. This is a Sunday where we celebrate what music does for the human spirit. Singing is an act of creation, of bringing into the world something that wasn't there before. Singing is a natural expression of our spirit. At the same time, it can be soothing, energizing, crying, laughing, angelic, or down in the dirt blues. It's all good. Singing is energy going out into the world to create even more sympathetic energy. It could change the world. I'll bet it was someone listening to music that first created the concept of heaven. This morning, we welcome our guests to join us for a cup of morning tea after we have stretched our vocal cords. It's our sacrament of hospitality, and it won't be complete without you. Now let us move into worship, willing to be authentic with each other, honest with ourselves, and open to connection in all its forms. Desmond Tutu once said, if you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor. If an elephant has its foot on the tail of a mouse, and you say that you are neutral, the mouse will not appreciate your neutrality. Protest songs reject neutrality. They choose a side in opposition to all that dehumanizes us. Through the power of song, they call for resistance. Corinne Henrickson, wave to all the visitors so they know who to blame, was the successful bidder at the service auction for this year's Jukebox Sunday. When she told me she wanted us to focus on protest songs that played a part in New Zealand's history, I thought it was very appropriate for this congregation. Its members had often found themselves as part of the resistance, be it for environmental protection or being nuclear free or against the Vietnam War, racism, and apartheid. Corinne selected the songs we will sing. I had hoped to engage the Top Twins or Joan Baez to accompany us, but alas, they were otherwise engaged. As an alternative, we will sing along with the jukebox, that is, over the speakers. The lyrics are in your order of service, and I hope you will feel free enough, brave enough, to sing along as if you were in your car alone, listening to the radio. The chalice is the container, the space where the musicians and the listeners gather. The wax is the fuel, the hours of practice and the life experiences of everyone in the room. The wick is the instruments and vocal cords through which the music will flow. And the flame is the magic which is created, as if by magic, When the instruments are lifted, the breath is inhaled and the downbeat is nodded. May this flame ignite this music within us all. Well, now it's time to feed the jukebox. The first selection on the jukebox is called Damn the Dam by John Hanlon. How many of you remember it? Okay. Damn the Dam was born as a 2-minute radio commercial for New Zealand fiberglass. John Hanlon had a day job as an advertising copywriter and art director at the time. The commercial was part of a campaign designed to lobby the government of the day to make insulation compulsory in new homes. While this was an environmentally responsible thing to do, clearly New Zealand fiberglass, as the manufacturer of pink bats, would benefit from this legislation. They did. Nonetheless, said John, it took a brave and visionary client to approve a 2-minute radio commercial with only 10 seconds of soft sell commercial message in the body of it. As a result of the advertising airtime bought by the client, the song/commercial became very popular, and John was pressured into releasing it as a single. He agreed to do so as long as the profits were donated to environmental bodies. Eventually, the song was adopted by opponents of the Lake Manapuri Dam. Lake Manapuri is often described as the loveliest of all Fiordland's lakes, with its array of 33 small islands, backdrop of the Cathedral Mountain Range, and native bush-clad edges with a variety of sandy beaches and coves. The Public Works Department wanted the dam the outlet of the lake, so it would raise the water level of the lake by 30 meters to join it with Lake Teano. This would have produced much more power. It would have also destroyed all the coves and islands and thousands of hectares of pristine World Heritage rainforest. A strong nationwide protest lasting over a decade prevented the raising of the lake from taking place. That campaign, the Save Manapuri campaign, is regarded as a major milestone in the history of New Zealand's environmental protection. So, those of you who know it, lead the rest of us. Our next song, Naiwie, sung by the Top Twins, translated means the song for the people of the Pacific. Hirini Melbourne took a Kapahaka group to the Festival of the South Pacific in New Caledonia. He wrote the first 2 verses and asked the other countries attending to add on their own verse. It was adopted by Greenpeace, who sung it on the board of the Rainbow Warrior while protesting French nuclear testing at Mururoa in French Polynesia. The Top Twins, radical feminist lesbians and singing duo, often sang it at protests, including the Bastion Point land protest in 1978, nuclear-free New Zealand protests, anti-Springbok tour marches, and homosexual law reform demonstrations in the 1980s. Naiwie was a part of their repertoire. Okay. All right, now we have one you all know, I'm sure. We Shall Overcome is a gospel song which became a protest song and a key anthem of the civil rights movement. The song is most commonly attributed as being lyrically descended from I'll Overcome Someday, a hymn by Charles Albert Tindley that was first published in 1900. The modern version of the song was first said to have been sung by tobacco workers led by Lucille Simmons during a 1945 strike in Charleston, South Carolina. The song became associated with the Civil Rights Movement from 1959. It quickly became the movement's unofficial anthem. Pete Seeger and other famous folk singers in the early 60s, such as Joan Baez, sang the song at rallies, folk festivals, and concerts, and helped make it widely known. Since its rise to prominence, the song has been used in a variety of protests worldwide. In New Zealand, it was a feature at Bastion Point and at Springbok Tour protests as well. So, I expect to hear this one. I found the background to For What It's Worth by Buffalo Springfield rather interesting. Contrary to popular belief, For What It's Worth wasn't written as a reflection on any of the historic Vietnam War protests or civil rights marches of the era. Stephen Stills of Crosby, Stills and Nash actually wrote the song in only 15 minutes, he claims, about the Sunset Strip riots that were a reaction to the closing of a popular LA night spot and to the curfews imposed on the area to deter young people from loitering outside of clubs and bars. The LA Police Department tried to enforce the curfew laws by shutting down a handful of hangouts frequented by teens and people in their early 20s. So a local radio station called for a rally to protest. About 1,000 young people showed up and milled about until fighting broke out. Two of the young people who showed up were Jack Nicholson and Peter Fonda. Peter got arrested. What made it interesting for me is I had just moved to LA the year before. I remember all of it, because these riots went on for a month during that time until the curfew was lifted. While the event was certainly politically, socially, and emotionally charged, it surprises a lot of people to learn that this was the inspiration for the Buffalo Springfield Classic. For What It's Worth was almost immediately embraced as an anthem for a much larger social and political protests. Our next song is Biko. Biko is an anti-apartheid protest song by English rock musician Peter Gabriel. It was released in 1980. The song is a musical eulogy inspired by the death of the black South African anti-apartheid activist Steve Biko in police custody on 12 September 1977. News of his death spread quickly and became a symbol of the abuses perpetuated under the apartheid government. Biko's position as an individual who had never been convicted of a crime led to the death being reported in the international press. He thus became one of the first anti-apartheid activists widely known internationally. Gabriel wrote the song after hearing of Biko's death on the news. The lyrics, which include phrases in Xhosa, describe Biko's death and the violence under the apartheid government. It was banned in South Africa, where the government saw it as a threat to security. Biko had a huge political impact, and along with other contemporary music critical of apartheid, is credited with making resistance to apartheid part of Western popular culture. It has been called arguably the most significant non-South African anti-apartheid protest song. Its popularity certainly fanned the flames of New Zealand's anti-apartheid protests during the Springbok tour. How many know it? The next song I've never heard of before. but I think it's because I'm too far away from Australia growing up. Beds Are Burning by Midnight Oil. This is a political song about giving native Australian lands back to Aboriginal peoples. Midnight Oil performed this in front of a world audience of billions, including Prime Minister John Howard, at the closing ceremony of the 2000 Sydney Olympics. You know, the time difference when I was in America during the Sydney Games was such that I missed a whole lot of it. I certainly missed the closing. The whole band were dressed in black with the word sorry printed conspicuously on their clothes. This was a reference to the Prime Minister's refusal to apologize on behalf of Australia to Aboriginal Australians for the way they have been treated over the last 200 years. Well, that was a tough one for us. French Letter by the Herbs, which is a New Zealand reggae group. They released the song French Letter in 1982 in protest against French nuclear testing in the South Pacific. It became a popular hit and a protest anthem. When France briefly resumed testing in 1995, the band re-released the track. So let's give it a go. Their next song is a little easier to sing. The nonviolent action preached and practiced by Maori prophets Te Whiti and Toho at Parihaka in Taranaki forms one of the most compelling episodes of New Zealand's 19th century history, as they resisted Pakeha confiscation of their land and home. Tim Finn was inspired to write this paean to the pair after reading Dick Scott's influential book, Ask That Mountain, given to him by his sister, who challenged him to write a song about it. Just a couple of notes about that. They tried to make Toho and Te Whiti good New Zealanders, as we discussed last week. They took them around and tried to make them English. And so when they were taken to a meal, they refused to eat it like a Pakeha. And so they would put salt on their pudding and pepper, how's that line go? Pepper or sugar in their soup. That was their form of peaceful resistance. And the bit about the dog pissing on the cannon's wheels, Te Whiti saw that happen and saw it as a sign of hope. Okay, no protest movement is complete without singing John Lennon's Imagine. And Imagine conveys Lennon's wish for a world of peace and harmony in simple terms, both musically and lyrically. What may not be known is it was inspired by Cloud Peace, an instructional poem dated spring 1963 that appeared in Yoko Ono's book, Grapefruit. Well, the jukebox is exhausted at this point. But thank you, Corinne. Every week we gather in this beautiful space to find peace. Each week, words and music offer and celebrate peace, and with the hope of instilling it in us. Now, take the peace you have found here back out into the world with you, renewed in our faith and inspired to act. Let us be the peacemakers of the world aches for. And by being peacemakers, let us find the peace we long for. Go in peace, make peace, be at peace.